Happy Thanksgiving week, everybody. This Fantasy Friday on Fantasy Football Almost Daily, we'll preview all of the Sunday and Monday games, talk about which guys you can roll the dice on, and crack a few tough nuts. Trevor Jones and Kent Wyrock join me this Friday for the big show. Tell your friends and neighbors to tune in. Today's special episode is brought to you by Game Blazers, where Thanksgiving week means a special $40,000 prize pool and free roll contests. Build your ultimate fantasy team with packs and in the marketplace to win your share of cash each week. Get started now with referral code FFAD when you register, and you'll get a free starter pack plus a free rare pack that's valued at $25. And you'll get a spend 5, get 50 offer. Basically, you spend $5 and you get 2 more rare packs valued at $25 a piece, equals $50. As soon as you get onboarded there at Game Blazers. So download Game Blazers today. Play it over the Thanksgiving holiday week. Fantasy Football Almost Daily is also brought to you by Fanball. And Thanksgiving week is like a double week here at Fanball. On Thanksgiving Day, we have the Football Feast. It's a $25 contest. It's limited to only 85 players with a $500 top prize. There's also the $10 Turkey Day Gobbler. That contest also boasts a top prize of $500. Got a few more people in it, though. Pay for all of that Black Friday shopping on Thanksgiving Day on Fanball. Want help setting a lineup? That's what we're here for today. Christian Peterson joins me to preview each of the Thanksgiving games and the Black Friday contest, Fantasy Friday style. Before we get to that, let's hear some intro music.
From the Sports Hub Games Network. This is Fantasy Football Almost Daily with your host, Matt Harrison.
Hey friends, Matt Harrison back again. You can find me on Twitter or Blue Sky at Explosive Output. And today we're going to preview the 4 games on Thursday and the 4 games plus Thursday, Friday. Yeah, you know what we're talking about. With me today is Christian Peterson. I'm sure he's got a whole new host of alloys to talk about today. How you doing, CP?
I'm well. I don't know that I have any. Well, I may have one new alloy. It's not even really an alloy necessarily, but we'll have to get to that.
I may have a couple as well. Ooh.
Oh, uh-oh. Well, I will note that in an apology to all of the expert metallurgists out there, last week, I think we erroneously said that bronze is the metal that can turn to green, to patina, when it's weathered. It's copper, not bronze.
Did you know that bronze is like 90% copper?
Well, everybody knows that, man. To the purists out there, we may have erred a little bit in our description of what patina was. I don't even know if I'm saying that word right. Is it patina? Patina? Whatever.
I don't know. I'm sure somebody will help us out with that one. Let's dive right into the matchups. There's 3 on Thanksgiving. There's 1 on Black Friday. We're going to preview them all. CP, the Packers head to Detroit to take on the Lions in the early game. Is there any player on the Packers side that you feel super confident about besides Jordan Love?
No. In fact, I don't feel confident in Jordan Love either. Basically, ever since Tucker Kraft went down, he's been a nightmare. Last week, 139 yards, no touchdowns. Week before that, 174. Salvaged that with 2 touchdowns, but then 176 and 0 the week before that against Detroit when these two teams met back in week 1. Love had just 188 yards. Again, did have the 2 touchdowns. I don't know. The Lions defense has not been great against the pass. Only 7 teams have allowed more passing touchdowns than them. They've allowed multiple touchdown passes in 5 of the last 7, but the yardage certainly just isn't there for Jordan Love right now. So maybe you're getting maybe 200 yards, not even that if the last 3 weeks are any indication, and you're going to be totally dependent on a touchdown or 2. So on a slate like this, I guess it depends on what you're looking at here. If you're looking at a contest that specifically is including only these 4 games, I wouldn't be anywhere near Jordan Love. If you're just putting him into your regular lineup like you usually would, I'd still be a little iffy about it. It's possible you've got a better starter on your bench or off the waiver wire. So I actually gave him a bench grade for this one.
Wow.
So then, perhaps surprisingly, Romeo Doubs, perhaps not surprisingly, I should say, his wide receivers I don't love very much either. Romeo Doubs I've got on the bench, just 2 catches and 23 yards last week. Seems to have kind of ceded the number one wide receiver duties for the Packers to Christian Watson, who I've got a sort of a tepid starting grade, a bronze starting grade on Christian Watson. 5 catches for 49 yards on a team leading 7 targets last week. He had the 2 touchdowns the week before that. The Lions, of course, last week they got torched by Wan'Dale Robinson, 156 yards and a touchdown. Although I believe they are going to get their top cornerback, Terrion Arnold, back this week. He's questionable with a concussion, but the reports are positive on the Lions' top corner. So I don't love Christian Watson either, but if you're looking for a Packers wide receiver, he'd be the one that I'd put in my lineup. The rest of the wide receivers aren't getting enough run to worry about. The tight ends
score points in this game. Then
that's what I can't figure out, because the Lions are only favored by 3, and the over/under is 49.5. So Vegas is expecting the Packers to score points. I guess the obvious answer is on the ground, which is what they did last week with Emmanuel Wilson filling in for the injured Josh Jacobs. Wilson had 28 carries last week, 107 yards and 2 touchdowns. Certainly did enough to be encouraged and to put him in your lineup if Josh Jacobs misses a second straight week. Now, Jacobs was essentially a true game time decision last week, ultimately ended up sitting out with that bruised knee. It's a short week heading into Thanksgiving. I believe he was back at practice earlier this week. So it feels like he's probably going to suit up and give it a go, in which case you've got to have him in your lineup. 66 yards and a touchdown in the week 1 matchup against the Lions. The Lions are very good against the run, but really that's all the Packers have been able to move the ball over the last few weeks. So I've got Jacobs in as a silver level starter, because maybe even if he plays, that dinged up knee means Emmanuel Wilson gets a few extra carries here and there. So not the usual gold that you would see on Jacobs, just a silver. Wilson would obviously be a starter if Jacobs can't play. If Jacobs is in there, there's just not enough here to consider Wilson on this side of the matchup. Let's go to the other side where there are starters all over the place. Jared Goff, I've got him as a silver medal starter. Just 225 yards and a touchdown in the week 1 loss to the Packers, where he was sacked 4 times. The Packers have only allowed 1 passing touchdown in their last 4 games. However, one of those games was against J.J. McCarthy, which is like a free square. They also faced Bryce Young and Jameis Winston. So I'm not too concerned about the matchup here. Goff is what he is, right? He's going to get you your 225 and 1 as the floor. And if he gets 2 or 3 touchdowns and a few extra yards, that's just gravy, so to speak. Amon-Ra St. Brown, he's an obvious gold level starter every single week. 9 catches for 149 yards and a touchdown last week. You don't need me to tell you that. Jameson Williams. Now here's a conundrum. Last week,
hosted us last week.
For crying out loud, over 500 yards of total offense by the Lions. 0 catches and 0 yards on 3 targets. Not only that, that was the second time in the last 5 games that Williams has put up a complete goose egg. The problem is in between those 2, so whatever that was, 5 weeks ago and last week, both goose eggs, he had touchdowns in the 3 straight games and at least 4 catches and 66 yards in each of the 3 games between those 2 goose eggs. So what do you do here? I don't know. I've got him as a bronze level starter. He's your ultimate boom or bust guy, right? If Dan Campbell decides that he wants to keep him involved in the offense and target him in the offense, then he's a big play threat who can score a touchdown and he can rack up catches and yards. If not, all bets are off. So again, just sort of a boom or bust. It depends on what your risk appetite is here with Jameson Williams. Nothing to see with tight end Brock Wright. He's irrelevant. No tight end is relevant since Sam Laporta went down for the Lions. And at running back, again, an easy one here, right? You don't need me to tell you to put Jahmyr Gibbs into your lineup, especially after what he did last week. One of the potentially one of the greatest fantasy football performances of all time with 219 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground, another 11 catches and a touchdown through the air. So Gibbs obviously in your lineup. And at this point, Gibbs is so freaking good. They're not giving David Montgomery his usual amount of carries. So I've got Montgomery on the bench here.
Yeah, it's tough not to have Gibbs in the like DFS lineups that I've
I
built
know.
for Thanksgiving Day, but he comes at a pretty high price in this one.
Yeah, I think you're getting too cute if you're going to put him on your bench.
Yeah, absolutely. The second game on Thanksgiving Day is the Chiefs and Cowboys. It's the afternoon one in Dallas, always is, but it's two teams that really both need wins to stay in the playoff hunt, and they're both coming off big wins last week, kind of statement wins for both of them. Let's start with Patrick Mahomes in the passing game. He's the third-ranked fantasy quarterback right now, playing the last place fantasy defense versus the QB. So Mahomes is averaging 270 passing yards per game. Lo and behold, the Cowboys are allowing 270 passing yards per game. 270 seems to be right on the nuts. That's where we're going to hit this week. The Cowboys have allowed 21 or more standard fantasy points to 11 of the 12 quarterbacks they faced this year. And the one that didn't hit that mark was Geno Smith. Patrick Mahomes, solid gold rating here. Ooh, I'll play this one.
That's gold, Jerry. Gold.
That's gold.
Excellent.
Kenny Banyan there. Rashi Rice looks up like he'll match up mostly with Reddy Stewart in the slot. Stewart has only seen 5 targets in his coverage over the last 4 games. He's been surprisingly kind of good in coverage. At least he's not allowing people to get open. But the Cowboys haven't faced a who's who of the best slot receivers in the league so far this year. And I don't know if Reddy is ready for Rice, who's basically been the second best receiver in the league since he returned from suspension 5 weeks ago. Outside of the dud he threw up against Denver, Rice has hit at least 80 yards or scored in every other game this year. Xavier Worthy is startable as well with a silver grade, which even surprised me a little bit.
That's bold. Worthy's been bad.
Well, he's been basically bad since Rice returned, and last week he had the most snaps of any of the Chiefs wide receivers. And he was injured heading into that game, so that's a good sign. He ended up with 8 targets last week, plus the matchup with either Deron Bland or backup to the backup, Kalen Carson, who is definitely a name I did not make up. Both of those matchups are good. Carson has only played 113 total snaps this year and is allowing 17 yards per reception in his coverage. And Bland is not only his last name, it describes his playing style as well. He's allowed the 9th most touchdowns in his coverage this season. And Xavier Worthy manning the perimeter against those two guys. That's just too good of a matchup for me to completely ignore. And I think this is going to be a little bit of a shootout in this one.
Yeah, you might have convinced me. I have a league where I'm trying to decide between Jameson Williams and Xavier Worthy for my final wide receiver spot. And I would have leaned Williams. You may have just convinced me to put in Worthy instead.
Well, let's give it a shot. I'm going to throw some silver at Travis Kelce as well. It seems strange, but he's put up the second most fantasy points amongst tight ends this year. And like super quietly, by the way. Trey McBride is the only tight end with more yards than Kelce, and he's 4th in the league in total receptions for tight ends. And as I said, I think there's going to be shootout potential here. So Kelce feels like he'll be in play. And the Cowboys have allowed the 10th most receptions to opposing tight ends. But they're kind of bend but don't break. They've only given up 3 touchdowns total to the tight end position all year, which is the 5th fewest. So just a silver for Kelce. Kareem Hunt had 30 carries last week. Where'd that come from? So if it's Hunt's backfield all to himself again on Thursday, I'll give him a silver grade. He scored a touchdown in 4 straight games. And even if Pacheco does return, he's probably the better of the two as far as a probability to score. Now, Isaiah Pacheco might return for this game. He was limited in practice again this week with that same knee injury. The Chiefs also signed Damian Pierce to their practice squad as well, and I'm not sure what the tea leaves say about that at this time. But if Pacheco is back, I'll downgrade Hunt to a bronze because I think Pacheco will just eat into the workload. But the matchup is still a good one. The Cowboys allow the 8th most combo yards to opposing backs at 139 per game. So if it's Hunt all by himself, he's probably getting to 100 yards. Also, they've been very susceptible to pass catching backs as well. The Cowboys have given up a ton of receiving yards to pass catchers. If you need a cheap, deep dart throw, Brashard Smith is a guy I could see just out of nowhere factoring in this game and maybe getting 40 or 50 receiving yards in this one. On the other side, the running game goes through Javonte Williams, and this is a tough matchup. The Chiefs just held Jonathan Taylor to one of his worst games of the season, only 64 combo yards on 18 touches last week, no scores. In fact, if you have to go all the way back to week 4 to find a running back that's topped 14 PPR points in a game against the Chiefs, and that magical number of 14 PPR points, Javonte hasn't hit that in 3 straight games, even with touch totals of 23 and 22 in the last 2 weeks. So a patented Scott Fish volume bronze grade for Javonte Williams. Dak Prescott gets a silver grade. It's a tough matchup, but the Chiefs have allowed some decent days recently to above average quarterbacks like Prescott. Bo Nix got to 295 for passing yards. Josh Allen had 273 and 3 total scores. Jared Goff, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Herbert, they all had decent days as well. Dak will do enough to get the silver here. George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb, and I list them in that order because that is the new order of their listing in my mind. Pickens,
I think you're probably right. Pickens is ridiculous right now.
Yeah, caught all 9 of his targets for 146 and a score last week. And Lamb only caught 4 of his 11 targets as he struggled with some drops last week. He still got some decent yardage, though. The matchup is really tough. Both perimeter corners for the Chiefs rank in the top 11 in the league in Pro Football Focus ranking. Now, Lamb runs mostly from the slot, so he'll likely match up most often with Christian Roland Watkins, who is definitely a real person and has been covering the slot most often for the Chiefs. He's actually a safety, so he gave up a touchdown last week in his coverage, and it feels like this is the path of least resistance for the Cowboys. So I'm going to give Pickens and Lamb both silver grades in this one, but I like Lamb a touch more in this game than Pickens.
Would you consider upgrading him to Electrum?
No, not quite.
No, okay.
He's not even
Fair
white
enough.
gold or anything like that. Jake Ferguson gets a bronze grade. The Chiefs have also been tough against the tight end. They held Tyler Warren to 5 catches and 45 yards last week, but Colts backup tight end Andrew Ogletree scored in the game. And Sam Laporta and Dalton Kincaid have had good days against this D. Just a bronze, though, as the target totals. They've just dropped significantly since Lamb returned to the lineup. And that is I didn't even move the little thing. Bummer. I got to put the little Kansas City Chiefs Dallas thing on the top of the screen. I totally missed it. Man,
No worries.
I am one pathetic loser. Anyway, let's take a quick break and talk to a winner. Our friend Maj, who's going to tell you about Game Blazers.
Thanksgiving is right around the corner, and it's one of the best football days of the season. Make it even better with Game Blazers, where you can win your share of 40 grand in prizes in free-to-play games. Game Blazers is where collecting meets gaming meets DFS. You rip packs, collect items to build your ultimate fantasy team, and set lineups in free rolls with cash prizes on the line every week. Game Blazers is giving away $750,000 in guaranteed prizes during the regular season, so every week is a big deal. And when you're not setting lineups, you can play free minigames to earn XP and level up your GB Pass, which is a rewards pass that gives you boosts and bonuses just for using the app. Upgrade to the Premium GB Pass to earn more and even better rewards. Sign up now to get your free starter pack and use referral code FFAD for a free rare pack too, valued at $25. And once you're done with onboarding, there's a spend 5, get 50 offer where $5 gets you 2 more rare packs. Download the app today and learn more at GameBlazers.com.
Man, that Anthony Maggio he's just a pleasant man.
So pleasant, so cheerful.
Yeah, the way that he explained Game Blazers, it was very reasonable to me. Like it looked like I'd like to give that a try. Thanks, Maj.
Well, you have given it a try. We play it
That's
internal
true.
together.
That's true.
I also wanted to mention one of our other Sports Hub Games Network brands, the NFFC, National Fantasy Football Championship. They're hosting a Turkey Day Bonanza contest. They don't do these very often, but this is like the NFFC's version of DFS. It's a $100 entry fee. It's a $10,000 grand prize, and they pay out the top 35 places, and it's just a super simple game. You use players from the 3 Thanksgiving Day games. You must pick at least one player from each team. There's no salary cap. Lineups lock before the Packers-Lions game starts at 11:30 a.m. Central Time. And it's the NFC scoring with 6 points per passing touchdown. It's a pretty standard starting lineup: quarterback, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, a tight end, a flex, a kicker, and a defense in there. So that's it. Kind of easy, kind of fun. Just pick the 10 players you want. No salary cap involved, and you can turn 100 into 10 grand. Check it out on playnffc.com. And
I would play if I could. It's a fun contest.
I think we're going to do an internal of that as well. So
I hope we do. Yeah.
It is a fun one. Their playoff contest is really fun as well.
Agreed.
The Bengals and Ravens are in Baltimore for the nightcap on Thanksgiving, and it looks like Joe Burrow's back, CP.
It sure does. And you have to assume he's fully healthy if they're willing to throw him in there in a season that's already lost for the Bengals. So I'm going in on the baseline that he's fully healthy and going to be ready to go. Matt, you may recall when these two teams played last year in their 2 matchups, both Ravens wins. The Ravens won 41-38 in one of them and 35-34 in the other. In those 2 games, Joe Burrow, 392 yards and 5 passing touchdowns in the first one, 428 yards and 4 touchdowns in the second one. So I don't know if history will repeat itself. The Ravens defense has looked pretty good over the last few weeks, but they also haven't played anybody. They're playing the likes of Tua Tagovailoa, J.J. McCarthy, Shadur Sanders, Tyrod Taylor. So there's a chance this thing turns into an all-out shootout like it did in both games last year. In that case, you certainly want Joe Burrow in your lineup. And also, you haven't been waiting almost 11 weeks or whatever it is, only to get Joe Burrow back as your quarterback, only to not play him. So he's in your lineup. Starter. Gold level starter, Jerry. Gold. That brings us to Jamar Chase, who you may recall in those very same matchups last year. 193 yards and 2 touchdowns, and then 264 yards and 3 touchdowns. That's pretty good. I've got Jamar Chase in there with a rare, almost unheard of vibranium level start. Do you know what vibranium is?
Isn't that from like Black Panther?
Yes, it's from the Avengers. It's the metal that makes Captain America's shield and the Black Panther's suit. It absorbs and stores kinetic energy, which is going to be unleashed all over the Ravens secondary here. So obviously you're starting Jamar Chase. You may even consider Andre Yoshivas as one of our the Yoshi sounder, as one of our, I think it was Kent's roll the dice starter last week. He had 4 catches for 61 yards, so not horrible. He was sort of the number 2 that last week because Chase was sitting out with a suspension. Well, he's still number 2 because T. Higgins got concussed last week and is almost certainly not going to play. Again, it's a little difficult to sort of gauge the relative strength of the Ravens pass defense because they haven't played a lot of strong teams recently, but they did let John Mechie go for 65 yards and a touchdown last week. A couple of weeks ago, Jalen Naylor, 124-1. So secondary receivers have found a way to get it done here. So let's give a bronze level starting grade to Yosibas. Tight end, no Cincinnati tight end has topped 42 yards all season long. Of course, the return of Burrow maybe gives us a little hope here. Mike Gesicki returned last week from an injury that had kept him out a couple weeks. He had 4 catches for 35 yards. But the Ravens are one of the best tight end defenses in the league. Only one has topped 60 yards against them all season long. So Gesicki, maybe if you're desperate, but I've got him with a bench grade. That brings us to the running game. Chase Brown. Brown's been great over the last 5 games. He has over 100 total yards in each of them. Last year, he didn't do much against the Ravens in their 2 matchups. There were all those points scored, but it was mainly being done through the air. So he didn't do much there. The Ravens are just middle of the road against the run this year, so there's not much to worry about from a matchup perspective. However, the only thing I'm really worried about is Samaje Perine is expected to return this week. He's missed the last 2 games with a bum ankle, and when Perine has been in there, he typically reduces Brown's snaps by about 20%. So Ryan, there's not enough for him to be considered a starter, but there's just enough to move Brown's grade from a gold down to a silver for me. So silver for Chase Brown. Other side of this matchup, also a little difficult to analyze here, mainly just because of the struggles of Lamar Jackson. Struggled for a third straight game versus the Jets last week, just 153 yards and 0 touchdowns. Hasn't topped 193 passing yards in 3 weeks, just 1 passing touchdown in that span, and hasn't scored a rushing touchdown since week 1. But if we're going to go back to last year's matchups and bank on something similar happening, against the Bengals last year, Lamar had 348 yards and 4 touchdowns in one matchup, followed by 290 in 4. So if we see similar fireworks here, obviously that's going to help you out. I've got Lamar. You're not going to bench the guy. He's a starter, but I gave him just a silver grade simply because of the struggles. We just need to see him start to do more, and maybe this is the get right week against a bad Bengals defense. Zay Flowers, barely a starter. He hasn't topped 75 yards or scored from week 1. He'll face top Bengals cornerback DJ Turner, who is Pro Football Focus's number 6 ranked corner. Turner allows just an average of 1.7 catches and 28 yards to wide receivers in his coverage. So Zay Flowers, just barely a starter at the bronze level. Not even worth talking about the rest of the wide receivers. Tight end Mark Andrews, I gave him an electrum start on Mark Andrews, right between gold and silver. Just 1 catch for 9 yards versus the Jets last week. He's just not doing it a lot in terms of volume, 34 receiving yards or less in each of his last 8. However, the Bengals are the worst tight end defense in the league. They've allowed league highs in receptions, yards, and touchdowns by almost double. They've allowed 13 tight end touchdowns. The next worst defense has allowed only 7.
They're on pace to be the worst tight end defense of all time.
That's right. And so Mark Andrews, even despite the limited production really all season long, he's easily a starter this week, as is Derrick Henry. Kept on rolling last week. He had the 103 yards and a touchdown 2 weeks ago against Cleveland, 64 yards and 2 touchdowns last week. Cincinnati's been brutal versus the run. They rank dead last in fantasy points allowed to the position. 5 different backs have topped 100 rushing yards against them. 4 have scored multiple TDs. Derrick Henry is a gold, bordering on vibranium level start here.
That's gold, Jerry. Gold!
Just got that little part at the end there. All right. Let's move on to the Bears and the Philadelphia Eagles. And I'll start with Caleb Williams. In the past 3 weeks, the Eagles defense has rendered Jordan Love and Jared Goff almost useless in their games. But then they gave up 354 and 2 to Dak Prescott last week, and he added 1 on the ground as well. Now, Caleb's manufactured a lot of ways to fantasy points over the last month, but he's been held to completion percentages under 60 for 4 straight weeks. And in that span, they played some not very great defenses. The Bengals, the Giants, and the Steelers, all terrible pass defenses. And then the Vikings were sprinkled in there. And the Vikings defense probably most closely resembles the Eagles out of those 4. And Minnesota held him to 50% completions, 193 passing yards, and no scores in that game. The Eagles have been great with their pass rush, and despite the fact that Williams is a great scrambler, his passer rating under pressure is an abysmal 57.3. So I limped to a bronze for Williams. That's almost the patina grade right there, where he's like barely a starter.
And I don't love it. Tough matchup.
He needs a rushing score to float you in this one. The Eagles have allowed the 6th most rushing scores to quarterbacks, so that's kind of the saving grace there. DJ Moore scored twice last week against Pittsburgh, and Rome Odunze was targeted 9 times.
9 times.
9 times.
But he only managed 3 catches and 53 yards, and I hate the matchups for these Bears receivers here, either against Cooper DeJean or Quinyon Mitchell. DeJean has only allowed 1 score in his coverage all year. Quinyon Mitchell is one of the best cornerbacks in the league. He's allowed no touchdowns. Only 44% of the passes targeted his way are caught, and his passer rating is 59.8 in his coverage. The best matchup is probably for Luther Burden, who should probably see the most Adoree Jackson. more than anybody else, but I can't bring myself to get to a starting grade on any of these guys. They're all on your bench. So are Colston, Loveland, and Cole Kmet. Loveland got 5 of the 7 tight end targets last week, turned it into 4 for 49 and a score. So people might think he's turned the corner and he's the top dog over Kmet, but snap counts were basically even for the last 2 weeks, and Kmet had more targets the week before, so I could see it flipping right back the other direction. And the Eagles are a no-fly zone for tight ends. They're top 5 in receptions, yards, and touchdowns allowed to the position. So Colston, Loveland, and Cole Kmet are going to split 4 catches and 32 yards. No, thank you. And then finally, Kyle Monangai and DeAndre Swift, my last guys for the Bears. For the first time this year, in a game where both were healthy, Monangai had more snaps and touches than Swift last week against the Steelers. He ended up with 12 carries for 48 yards and a score. That's Monangai. And then Swift was held to 15 rushing yards on 8 carries. But if the Bears want to win, they're going to run the ball in this game. In the 3 games the Eagles have lost this year, an opposing running back has hit 20 touches in all 3. And the other 2 backs who hit 20 touches against the Eagles, they saw their teams lose by 3 and by 5. So grinding the running game is the way to beat the Eagles. And I think it'll be Monangai leading the way. I'll give him a statutory bronze grade. You might ask what a statutory bronze is.
I will ask.
One of the highest quality bronzes on the market. A high quality alloy for sculptures made from approximately 97% copper, 2% tin, and 1% zinc. Yeah. You're learning metallurgy on fantasy football.
I am. I'm surprised that I didn't know that already, to be honest, but that's impressive.
It's to make statues. That's why it's statutory.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the zinc. It's the zinc that makes the statues.
Yes. Swift has been slightly more involved in the passing game, and the Eagles give up the 4th most receiving yards to opposing backs. So Swift limps in with a commercial bronze grade. And commercial
bronze, you say?
Yeah, it's the lowest grade of bronze. It's a less expensive alloy containing 90% copper and 10% zinc, often used for applications where the specific properties of higher quality bronzes are not needed.
Right.
Sad. Commercial bronze grade. First, DeAndre Swift. Saquon Barkley gets a gold grade, though. He hasn't quite flashed the 14 karat gold most of the season, but the matchup is right. The Bears are allowing 5 yards per carry and the 9th most combo yards to running backs at 138 per game. If Barkley can't get it done now, when's he going to get it done? Jalen Hurts is a golden boy as well. Hurts finds ways to points every week, but if you needed another reason to like him, the Bears give up the 5th most rushing yards to quarterbacks, and they've really only faced 3 running quarterbacks this season. Jaden Daniels got to 52. Tyler Huntley got to 53. Jackson Dart had 66 and 2 rushing scores. A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith. The Eagles started passing again last week. That was nice to see. Brown has had double-digit targets in 2 straight weeks. He had 8 catches for 110 and a score last week against the Cowboys. Smith also had 11 targets last week in Dallas. He got to 89 yards on 6 catches. And 8 different wide receivers have hit double-digit PPR points in just the last 4 games. That includes games against the free space, J.J. McCarthy, and Mason Rudolph. The Bears have also allowed 14 touchdowns this season to wide receivers. That's the 4th most in the league. It's a silver grade for both, maybe even a little bit closer to white gold than silver, but they're both in a good spot. And finally, Dallas Goedert, he gets a bronze grade. He hasn't scored in 3 straight weeks. He's only topped 44 yards once this season, but his 7 touchdowns have really buoyed him. He's tied for the league lead amongst tight ends. So he's very touchdown dependent. The Bears gave up 1 last week to Pat Freiermuth. They've allowed the 5th most receptions to tight ends. So I'm giving him a bronze. It just feels appropriate here. He's got to get that touchdown. It's going to be tough to do, but let's see if he can. Couple reminders before we head out the door. Trevor Jones and I will be previewing the Sunday DFS slate in the next pod. That's coming up either late Wednesday or early Thursday morning. And then Fantasy Friday will be out on Friday in the middle of the day. Kent Wyrock and Trevor Jones are going to help me preview all the games with more gold, silver, bronze, Shibuya, patina, commercial bronze.
Electrum.
Yeah, all those. And a reminder, wherever you're listening or watching this pod, make sure that you like, follow, subscribe, and give us a 5-star rating and maybe a review in there if you like what you hear. CP, anything that you want to mention before we go to off to Thanksgiving and have a fantastic long weekend?
No, well, as we were going through the matchups, it was interesting to me that all 4 of these games should be exciting games. Sometimes Thanksgiving, it feels like, has at least one clunker, but these all seem like games where there's going to be it's either like a divisional matchup or there's going to be a bunch of scoring, which is good news, although it makes it difficult for a contest like the NFFC one, or if you're playing a Thanksgiving contest on Fanball, the decisions are going to be tough, right? Like at quarterback, you got Burrow, Hurts, Prescott, Mahomes. Those are all Goff, even. Like, they're all really good options. So people they'll have to pour through our analysis that we just gave them in order to make a smart decision.
Yeah, and if Love is the bottom of the barrel for quarterbacks in that Thanksgiving slate, I mean, that's a pretty good Thanksgiving slate right there.
Yeah.
It makes that Sunday slate not as attractive, though.
That's probably true. Yeah, a lot of big guns going on Thursday, but that makes it fun watching the games with your family.
Marquee matchups for sure. What do you do with your family on Thanksgiving?
We are just around town with 2 hockey playing sons. We can't afford to go too far, so we just we stay in town. This year we're going over to my sister's house for Thanksgiving. The grandparents will be there, so usually small quiet gatherings, but that's the way we like it.
Nice. I am about to go pick up our turkey from the butcher shop. I'm going to get it all brined up, and we're going to smoke that sucker on the Traeger on
Oh, you're going to smoke it. Excellent.
Oh, yeah, that's the way to do it. And then trying out for the first time this year, pulled ham.
Pulled ham.
It's like pulled pork, but ham.
Yeah, I mean, I could have guessed. That sounds good.
You let the ham get to a super high temperature, so it kind of starts falling apart, and then you pull it apart.
Do you smoke that too? Like at the same time? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Same time.
Okay. All right. Well, good luck with that. It sounds delicious, and happy Thanksgiving to you and to everybody.
Absolutely. Yeah, everybody out there, have a safe and happy Thanksgiving and Black Friday. Make sure to get all your sales and join those Fanball and NFFC Thanksgiving contests if you can. That help us out a little bit. And thanks for watching and listening to Fantasy Football Almost Daily. We'll see you again next time. Maybe.
This was Fantasy Football Almost Daily. Please subscribe and give us a 5-star rating wherever you listen to podcasts.